Ads are the bane of our existence, but will they be that bad in VR? We also have a patent pointing to a wireless VR headset released from Valve, an overly hyped game releases to outrage from the community, and Oculus just announced version 30 for the Oculus Quest, which will be rolling out soon. All of that, but first, this video is sponsored by VR Wave. Stop using glasses in VR and get prescription lenses. It's much more comfortable, and even if you don't need glasses, these lens covers can protect your eyes with a blue light filter and protect your headset lenses from scratches. Follow the link in the description and get 5% off with code VIRTUALPANDA. Version 30 for the Oculus Quest comes with several awesome and much needed updates. First, you may have noticed that using the Oculus Party system in a game prevents you from talking with other people in that game. Well, Oculus is now including an option for you to select which voice chat you're actually going to be using, whether that's the party chat that you use to talk to your friends or if it's in the actual app where you talk with other people in the game. This will allow you to talk to teammates in a multiplayer game without having to actually leave your party like you had to before. The next big update is that AirLink will now be coming to the original Oculus Quest headset, which is great for a lot of people that still use that headset. Another interesting feature in the v30 update is that if you use a lot of flat screen apps, you'll actually be able to use multiple flat screen apps at the same time. They call this multitasking. So for example, if you wanted to use your browser and you had that open, you could also have your Oculus TV going next to it. I personally don't think I'll ever use this feature, but it is an exciting addition for those that will want to use flat screen apps. And then lastly, there were some accessibility improvements with version 30 that will allow you to increase the text size as well as adjust the color for people with color blindness. And the last accessibility feature sounds like it's going to create some bugs for some existing games. It's the ability to raise your view so that you can use apps from standing height even when you're sitting down in real life. Most games already have their own system for doing this. For example, in VR chat, you just select seated play, but now Oculus is going to include an option for it that'll work universally with all apps and in the home environment as well. These are all pretty cool updates coming in version 30, but nothing major to me. I mean, I still haven't even finished getting the version 29 update. I still don't have the new Oculus menu, which is kind of ridiculous. I don't know. But moving on, if you pay attention to the VR community at all, you know that there is a lot of outrage over the announcement that Oculus will begin testing ads in specific games. The first game to receive ads is Blast On, and with more to come based on community feedback. A lot of people are really upset about this, understandably so, but there is also a lot of false information spreading around about how these ads will work. So I just want to clear up a few things about the ads and provide my own perspective on the subject. First, ads will only be implemented in games where developers choose to implement them. This means that Facebook will not be able to just go around putting ads in any game they want. The game developers have to decide that they want ads. Now, I suspect that many will want to have ads as a source of extra income for them, because just like if you're running ads on a website, the developers are going to get paid out some ad revenue. This is especially true if it's a free game like Rec Room or maybe even VR Chat, who knows. I also suspect that a lot of companies are going to refuse putting ads in their games based on how outraged the community has been for several days. I also suspect that games owned by Facebook will probably receive ads if they end up going forward with this. This means games like Population 1 and onward might be some of the first ones to receive ads if they do decide that ads are a good thing. Remember, right now it's only a test and nothing is for sure. That said, if ads are implemented in games, I think it will be interesting and even exciting. Like, I'm getting excited about it. That's assuming it's implemented correctly. So for example, if you were to see an ad in the VR world in a place that you would expect to see an ad in real life, such as on a billboard or in an arena, then having the ad there just increases the immersion, and I'm really open to seeing that happen. On the other hand, if ads become the norm in all VR games, this could incentivize developers to create games where ads actually make sense. So for example, it makes sense to implement ads in a modern or future-based game, because then you have billboard signs, whatever, but in a fantasy game, it would be a little bit harder to implement ads in a natural way that improves immersion. Sure, you could have a scroll or something like that, but it's just a little bit more complicated. That said, I think it is very unlikely that very many developers will implement ads, especially paid games. Paid games really shouldn't include major or intrusive ads. In fact, they really shouldn't include any ads. At least not like the way people are thinking. It's normal for companies to sponsor games, pay them to include their branding or product, and I think this will happen naturally to VR too once it becomes big enough for companies to want to take notice. For example, some people have thrown around the idea of turning the pop-in chicken in Population 1 into like a Taco Bell or a McDonald's as a form of an advertisement. As for standard ads like banner ads and flat ads like you would normally see, especially like the ones you would see in mobile games, these should only be implemented in free games in my opinion, and even then they should remain non-intrusive. Like, you shouldn't have ads like mobile ads that pop up and then for 30 seconds you can't do anything. That would be absolutely ridiculous. But at the end of the day, we don't know for sure how the ads will be implemented, and I doubt Facebook knows themselves. They don't want to disenfranchise their customers, and so I suspect they're gonna at least listen to us to some degree. Of course, they didn't listen to us about the Facebook login requirement, but at least now we know for sure why the requirement was implemented, so they could use your Facebook data and send you relevant ads. Of course, this last point is just speculation, but it's been what people have been speculating ever since the whole Facebook login debacle started. Regarding ads in Blaston, the first game to receive ads, their reviews have bombed after the announcement that they'll be the first company to include ads in their game. Now, I don't necessarily think that going to a game's reviews is the most appropriate way to approach this. I mean, they're just testing it out. It's nothing for sure. I mean, don't blame them or anything like that. But then again, all of these negative reviews are sending a clear signal that we don't want ads in paid apps. So maybe it is the right way to go about it. Though honestly, at the end of the day, I think it's common sense that people won't want ads in their paid games, and Resolution Games should have seen this coming. But I guess the resolution wasn't good enough to see it though. Yes, we're doing dad jokes. In a recent patent filed, it appears that Valve will be using some sort of wireless system for their new headset that uses a feature similar to Airlink's ASW and Virtual Desktop's SSW, though much better and more effective. We don't know whether this system will be using Wi-Fi like the Oculus Quest does, or some form of gigabit like the Vive wireless adapter. But we know it will use one of those technologies plus their own version of synchronous space warp to reduce latency to almost nothing. This will be possible because the headset will have its own chip, RAM, and etc., allowing it to have its own standalone capabilities. Plus, it'll have a new type of tracking that uses 1000 Hz, which will provide for some interesting opportunities. We also know a lot of other details about this headset based on several patents that have been coming up lately, and so it really appears that this is going to be an actual headset. Like, this isn't just a patent that we're not going to ever actually see. It appears that this is actually all pointing to a real headset that they have, at least as a prototype. If you want to learn more, check out Sadly It's Bradley's video on the topic, as he was the original person to find these patents and discuss them in depth. Larsonnauts launched last week, and if I'm being honest, the developers really screwed up the launch. First, nobody knew that the game was launching. There was no launch date trailer, no big announcement, nothing. A ton of my friends didn't even know that it was coming out. I mean, a few people knew that the game was coming out based on the Oculus listing including a date, and I guess 2 days before there was an announcement on Twitter, but honestly, who follows developers on Twitter? But outside of that, there was no hype around the actual release. Like I said, my friends, they hit me up that same day saying, hey, did you see the Larsonnauts launched? And you know, they didn't realize it was coming out. I knew because I stay up to date on these kinds of things, but most people were surprised to find the game actually already launched. Second, the game launched broken. It has become the norm to launch half-finished or broken games, especially on the Quest, and it is pathetic. This game was no different, and it was literally unplayable for anyone using Steam, and with many of the features of the game ruined with bugs and glitches, even if you were on the Quest, it was just a giant mess, alright? Worst of all, the game included features that took control of your body in the game, especially your arms, which most of the community hated. All in all, the game is suffering for not having any sort of beta or playtests or anything to receive feedback before launching the game. Many content creators, not including me, got to play in some of the playtests before the launch, but those were meant for review purposes and not for the developers to get any actual feedback. They didn't test their game with the community before launching it, and the player base is suffering because of it. My full review will be out later this week if you're interested, so make sure you're subscribed for that. But even if you don't subscribe, the short answer is I really don't recommend getting the game right now, especially if you play PC VR. I literally can't get their game to run smoothly on my computer, and I can play pretty much any other game. But anyways, that's it for this episode of Untitled Series. Remember to check out VRWave if you want prescription lenses for your headset. They're the best ones that I could find. I also want to thank my YouTube members for supporting me, and if you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon or hit the join button down below. But anyways, that's it. I'm out.